Hello, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in today. We're going to do what we always do here, which is have a deep, profound, and impactful conversation. You deserve nothing less than that. So, by the way, if you're new to this, welcome to A Course in Miracles. And if you're a longtime course student or wherever you happen to fall on the spectrum of someone who's never worked with this course before or an experienced student, welcome. Everyone is welcome here. This conversation is for every single living thing, and you have found this channel. Hmm, interesting, isn't it? I mean, it really is. It's interesting because there is so much out there on the internet, so many websites. And here on YouTube, the largest social media platform in the world, there are so many channels. Hmm, a lot. That's a lot of content, a lot of stuff to draw your attention. And here you are, however you got here, however long you've been tuning in, you're here for a reason. There is a message for you from the Holy Spirit. And should you choose to watch the entire video, which of course we're always welcome to do and encouraged, of course, there will be more than one message for you. What will that be? You'll know when you hear it. So I do invite you to stay tuned. We're in a section of the text of A Course in Miracles that's known as the Last Unanswered Question, chapter 21, section 7, if you're following along. And this last unanswered question is really important. So here's the backdrop. And if you would like a primer on this in more detail, I invite you to check out the most recent video in this series. It's entitled Say Yes to This. In other words, the last unanswered question, which goes into more detail. Let's hit the quick summary here. We ask ourselves many, many questions. And what happens is we go back and forth. We go back and forth. We ask ourselves questions such as, do I desire a world where I'm powerful and not powerless? And we often answer yes to that. Yeah, I do. And then we say, no, I'd rather be a victim today. Hmm. Nobody said that spirituality wasn't honest. Or if they did, they weren't being honest with themselves. We see right away that it's taking a look at our stuff. What else would it be, right? I mean, we answer this question, do I desire a world where I'm powerful and not powerless? We answer it both yes and no, and we vacillate. Another one of these questions that we ask ourselves, do I desire a world that I rule instead of one that rules me? And oftentimes we say, yes, I do. Of course I do. And then we say, no, I'd rather give my power away. And those may not be our exact words, but that is our choice. And we can see, if we really honestly look at our experience, many, many different times that we've done this, many different examples. We vacillate, we go back and forth. We want peace and we want chaos. And we have deceived ourselves and deluded ourselves into thinking that we can have both at the same time. We cannot. It's one or the other. Because truth is constant. It's constant. It is beyond all vacillations. So when we ask ourselves a question such as, do I desire a world that I rule instead of one that rules me? And we answer yes, okay, well, then we show up and we answer no the next minute. That's capable of switching our thoughts and changing our mind on. Same with, do I desire a world where I'm powerful and not powerless? Another question that we ask ourselves, and we vacillate between yes and no on the answer, thinking that we can do that and have the peace of God. Well, no, we can't, because if we're vacillating, it's not constant. Truth is constant. Yeah. Another question that we ask is, do I desire a world where I have no enemies and cannot sin? And we say, yes, I'd love to have a world where I have no enemies. I would love for this to be my experience. I would love for it to be the experience where I cannot sin. And by the way, you cannot, because there's only perfect oneness and God has no ego to be offended. There is no separate others. So the whole idea of sin is impossible. If you have thought that and known that your entire life, yes, exactly. All the time that you sat there in Sunday school, like I did as a kid, thinking, wait a minute. Why would perfect love, i.e., God, condemn and judge? Hmm, what's wrong with that picture? Hmm, hmm. Maybe you had those thoughts too. And I suspect you have, or you wouldn't be here. Because again, out of all the content on YouTube, here you are. Sin is impossible. There's only perfect oneness. God has no ego, in other words, to be offended. So he will not hurl a thunderbolt from Olympus and strike us down at whim because we went to another building at 11 o'clock on Sunday. Or we don't go to this fancy, shiny, ornate building over here. We go to a different building. Hmm. God doesn't do buildings. God can't be contained in an elaborate structure with four walls. So, vacillation is something that we do all the time. We go back and forth. We don't have to. You don't have to. And perhaps really allowing yourself to understand and get the message from this section of the text of A Course in Miracles will be a very, very good start for you, or some sort of a jolt, or a power surge, or a turbo boost on your journey. Yeah, maybe it will be. This last unanswered question is very important. And when we answer yes to it, it's a game changer. So, we ask ourselves all the time, do I desire a world where I'm powerful and not powerless? And we answer both yes and no. Okay. The last question that we've been actually afraid to answer implies that we've denied truth, which we have. We think we're this. Hmm. You know that. We think we're our professional reputation. That's made up. We're not that, of course. That's completely ephemeral. It's nothing. Yet we esteem it greatly. So we've been denying truth, thinking that we're embracing it. And one minute, perhaps we are, but then we change our mind. We vacillate again, and we go back to shiny objects. We go back to judgment and blame. And it's it's frustrating, isn't it? It's why we're all here, apparently, having this conversation, because we need it. So the last question is, do I want to see what I've denied because it is the truth? Do I want to see my identity, capital I, myself, capital S? Do I want to know who and what I am because it is the truth? Because it is the truth. When you answer yes to this question, it rules out all of the vacillation and the flip flopping. It rules it out. That's an important question to say yes to. Because when you do, you'll find your experience really is different. It changes. You no longer go back and forth. And when you sincerely answer this question, yes, you'll find as you go along, why would you? You don't want to. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be moments where we're still tempted to lash out and blame somebody for what we deem to be our plight here on Spinning Ball of Rock. We'll blame a government that's in power. We'll blame our boss. We'll blame the weather. I don't know. I mean, we'll blame somebody or something, but we can catch ourselves and course correct through the practice of true forgiveness done under the guidance of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit, done under Jesus's guidance, done under whatever you want to call its guidance, because the Holy Spirit is part of our mind and it itself, and the pronoun it's wholly appropriate. It's not a guy, not a woman, it's not a person. Yeah. It's part of our mind, part of you. Hmm. I certainly didn't learn that in Sunday school either. It didn't seem to me that anyone had formulated that thought that the Holy Spirit is actually part of our mind. Hmm. And if they had, they did not articulate it. So I sat there, I sat in Sunday school thinking about other things like pizza and the homework that I could have been doing, or the hike that I could have been having instead of sitting there. Yeah, yeah. Perhaps you've had similar experiences, and a lot of course students have. But the beauty of this is it doesn't really matter what your background is. In fact, it doesn't make any difference at all. This is a self-study curriculum, not a religion, for which I'm deeply grateful. Because this pixelated image on your screen, which I insist is really all you're looking at, is not in charge of you. Thank God. I don't want to be in charge of you. I mean, each of us has our own ego to cope with, and that's quite enough. And then we have all the situations in our lives that call for true forgiveness. I mean, maybe some of you are at work right now. Maybe you're about to go off to work. I mean, just for example, yeah. When we say yes to this last unanswered question, we add constancy, constancy to our decision. Truth is constant. It simply is, which is very profound and powerful. It does not have an opposite. It is. There are no opposites. It's constant. When we use the word eternal in A Course in Miracles, let's think about what that means. It's constant. It is. So there's a very short sentence, a very short statement that resounds here in A Course in Miracles. God is. That's it. Two words, two syllables, even. God is, period. That's as close as we can come in our convention of language to truth, which is beyond words completely. It's beyond all of our conventions here in the world. It's simply experienced or known. And you may have had some very profound and very powerful glimpses of this. That's quite possible on this thing that we call the spiritual path, and some of you may have had some of those experiences. And if you have not, you may. You may well. We don't really know when, but it's profound. I mean, we really can't capture it in words. Mm. When you answer yes to the last question, do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? You won't be changing your mind again. And if you should happen to, inadvertently, you'll be able to catch yourself, forgive, release. It's very powerful. And we're afraid to ask this question, but we don't have to be. So let's say yes to, do I want to see what I've denied because it is the truth? Happiness, joy, is constant. And it's constant because we have it. We say here in the world that we attain it or we get it by giving up the wish for the inconstant, by giving up the wish for flip flop, judge here, forgive here, and go back to judging. Love on 99% of the population of spinning ball and rock, but reserve our special hatred for that 1% or even less than 1%. That person or those people, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to forgive them. I'll forgive everyone else, though. And perhaps that one person's yourself. Mm. Let's not forget to forgive ourselves for dreaming this whole thingy. Yeah. So we say that we attain joy or happiness. We get it by giving up the wish for the inconstant and suffering. We want the peace of God and nothing else. There is nothing else. And here's the deal about happiness and joy. It's what we are. We already have it. We've just chosen not to see it. So when people talk in spirituality about removing a veil, for example, that can be a very, very handy and useful description of this. Yeah, we're peeling this veil layer by layer as needed so that we may see. Right now, we see the inside of a dark cloth and we think it's reality. But as we decide that we want to see with the Holy Spirit, when we decide for joy, happiness, the peace of God, truth, we begin to peel this veil off. And as it grows thinner and thinner, we begin to see the light streaming through. Things don't look the same. Perhaps that's helpful. And they don't. The reality is that truth is constant, and it has always been. It remains constant despite our mad wandering, despite our vacillations. It's constant. And again, many of you may have had a glimpse of this. Yeah, it's an experience that we would say here in the world doesn't leave you. Exactly. It can't. So what we're doing is we're awakening. That is a very, very appropriate and apt term. This wild ride that we appear to be on is, in fact, a dream. We're waking up from it. So let's take this last unanswered question. Do I want to see what I denied because it is the truth? And answer yes to it. All right. So I thank you, as always, for tuning in. And comments and questions right here are more than welcome. My intention in offering these videos is to serve as a guide for you to share the Holy Spirit with you. When something has landed here, when something lands, it's the Holy Spirit. Again, there's nothing special about this image that you see on the screen. It's an assemblage of electronic dots, constellated, reformulated, repurposed by this technology somehow. I have no idea how, but it's pretty cool. It's in the form of a middle-aged man from the United States, from Arizona to be more exact. Looks like a dude. It's a form that we all recognize, and this collection of sounds that appears to be coming out of my mouth is an assemblage of sounds that's widely spoken and understood here on this wobbling, spinning ball of rock. Absolutely no accident at all. And this is an international community. There are people here from all over the world. The Holy Spirit is making use of this medium of YouTube, the largest social media channel in the world, which of course can be used to communicate anything at all. So I thank you for your taking your time out of your day or your evening, whatever it is that you're doing. We all have things going on in life, and you're here, and that means something. And I really, really appreciate that. Now, if you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and do that, because again, it is an international community. The prompt is over here in the corner of your screen. Just click that icon and join us. You'll be invited to do that. And there are several videos that appear each week because, well, A Course in Miracles doesn't go anywhere. And our spiritual practice is, well, constant. There are opportunities for us to remember who we are every day. There are opportunities for us to forgive every day. You may have several in your mind right now. All right. So I thank you very much for joining me, and I will talk to you all very soon.